I had originally written the majority of the Phillip Paske article, but after a talk between me and my friend who had done the work for the article, we felt it was best to post the information where it could reach a larger audience, rather than many problems we've experienced with Wikipedia. I have also uploaded plenty to Reddit about Paske in the past. Phillip Paske was born on June 11, 1953. Despite claims from Ancient Faces, there's no evidence. Paske attended Kelly High School and had played in their Trojan band. It's impossible to find any yearbook photos of Paske through both Ancestry and Classmates, or anything he had done before the age of 17. Phillip Paske's first arrest came shy of his 18th birthday in May 1971, where he was charged with selling cannabis. He was not convicted. A few weeks later, on the 29th of May, Paske would be arrested for theft, though he was not convicted. A few weeks following later, on June 17th, he would be arrested for aggravated battery and would be convicted in September of that year. It's unknown why, despite being arrested for aggravated battery, why he continued to have the following arrests. As we see, on the 1st of July he was arrested for possession of fireworks. Though, this was around the 4th of July, so it's likely related to local laws. He would also have another arrest on the 14th of August for assault. It seems due to the nature of his aggravated battery charge, he spent around 6 months in jail before being released, where he would be arrested for attempted theft in February 1972. He would also experience another battery charge in June of 1972. In November 1972 he had been arrested on criminal damage to property. In 1973 he would have 3 arrests. 2 of these seemed to have relation to a warrant for theft where he had broken bond, though. It seems later, the state of Illinois had decided to give a leave to reinstate, allowing them to reinstate a case removed from schedule for 120 to 160 days. Moving on to the murder-robbery of Louis McCurley, I am going to self-plagiarize and use information that I had written over on Wikipedia last year. In November 1973, Paske, along with Al Bone and Richard Angel, planned to rob a coin collector named Louis McCurley. The attempted robbery took place at 7 p.m. in a second-floor apartment on W. Irving Park Road in Chicago. Bone was armed with a knife, and Angel had accompanied him with a handgun. Paske's role was to act as a lookout for any oncoming witnesses. When McCurley opened the door, Bone and Angel forced their way into the apartment. A struggle ensued, and Bone stabbed McCurley in the chest. All 3 then fled the scene. McCurley would later succumb to his stab wounds. The 3 were arrested and charged with murder and attempted armed robbery. Through a plea deal, Paske and Angel's murder charges were dropped. In exchange, they pleaded guilty to attempted armed robbery. Both served prison time and afterward were placed on probation. I've been delighted to watch Phillip grow in every way in the months we've spent here. We arrived within a day of each other and met a few months later. Since then, we've spent as much time as possible together. Phillip has become not only a close and trusted friend, he's become a strong right hand. Interested from the first in the foundation plan. He's taken on a great deal of correspondence and routine work that I would otherwise have to do, freeing me for planning and legal work and other activities of benefit to both of us. Phillip is 21, 6'1", 160, with blonde hair and blue eyes, a handsome guy with a high intelligence, a warm personality, and an active sense of humor. He has a serious side, too, which his present situation has placed heavy demands on. He'll be a part of the new operation, and a vital part, I'm sure. So many of you will meet him in the future and learn to value him as highly as I do. In letters sent in 1994. Norman would also entail other experiences him and Paske had had in the Cook County Jail. There were a lot of things I did that the guards noticed and allowed. Among them were the stairwell conference. I worked up front in the records office. Next door to the records office was the attorney room. When an inmate was called to see his lawyer, he had to ring a bell to summon an officer from the record office to admit him to the attorney room. Every Friday and Saturday night, I was alone in the place with just one officer, a black cop named Craig, who was a nice guy but not the world's smartest. I'd once put myself at some risk to prevent Craig from making a mistake that would have cost him his job, so as far as he was concerned, I could do whatever I wanted, with his knowledge. When things got slow, there wasn't that much to do anyway on weekend nights. I might call E2, the teenage tier, or any other where there was a guy who interested me, with the both of us, Phil Paske and Norman, started going to AA on Sunday nights, so that I could meet his dad, who was one of the outside people who came in regularly. That gave me a chance to help persuade his dad to raise the money for his bail. In any case, Phil got out several months or weeks before I did. Norman letter, September 16, 1994. It was quite a project, and I would work all day, 16 hours, and I paid another inmate Paske to do the typing and other work during the other 8 hours of the day. He claimed that he sent the typed master draft to a shop in the East Village, gay district of New York City, for printing and distribution. If the newsletter was printed up on the outside, how was the porno material allowed back in the jail? Norman produced about 3,000 copies of the 3-page publication. The copies are given to friends of inmates who handled the bulk of the mailing. Some copies were sent back to Norman, who distributed them to supervising officers, Chicago police officers, lawyers, the parents of inmates, and new subscribers. In his first newsletter, Norman offered pictures and descriptions of boys and an explanation of the Delta Project. He tells the reader that Delta dorms were being established around the country, and each is a private residence where one of our sustaining members acts as a Don Pedro. The newsletter's lead page had photos of 5 of his recruits and where they were stationed: Phil Paske of Chicago, Reggie of Maine, Ray of Florida, Jimmy of Texas, and Gary of Chicago. Norman explains, "It's an interesting crew, and there'll soon be more joining us. You provide round-trip fare and pay a daily stipend, part of which goes to my defense fund, part of which goes to the youth's own self-development fund. You have my guarantee that the fellow will be sincere and honest, presentably dressed, and on time. Nothing more is required of him. The fellows are all friendly and adaptable, however, and warm friendships are possible between them and their sponsors. Return trips are common. In fact, Norman been a positive influence on youths. I've encountered integrity and character are goals of the foundation program. Personal qualities he had encouraged in young people by precept and example." In 1976, Paske was released from prison several months before Norman, after his bail was met. During this time, Paske had registered P.O. Box 5091 in Chicago under both him and Norman's name. Months later, when Norman's bail was paid for by a patron in California, he was also bailed from jail. Norman would state this about his experience after his release: "Phil Paske got out several months before I did, and picked me up the day I finally made bail, February 1976. That led to our sexual experiment. That night in my hotel room on the north side of Chicago, closing parenthesis. In the course of the next 4 years, we generally shared everything, working together and sometimes living together as well. We had no secrets, so each of us was aware of what was happening in the other's sex life. What's single quotes s really interesting about the relationship between Phil and me in the next few years, and which calls for book length, was the strange polarity of his attitudes towards the guys I made it with. After all, since it was just a friendship between us, it should have made no difference to him who I slept with, as long as it was what I wanted, right? Not Phil, though there were guys he liked and accepted, there were others he violently disliked, and in the latter case, you'd swear he acted like a jello." Stay tuned for part 2.